Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into some seriously esoteric Eastern spiritual concepts to uncover the actual ultimate mechanics of spiritual cultivation. And we aren't just going to be talking about the abstract philosophy of life, death, and what lies beyond. We're getting right down to the strict physical and dietary requirements, specifically why true cultivation absolutely requires a vegetarian diet if you actually want to escape the existential cycle. So let's get into it. Think about this profound ancient saying for a second. People fear death, ghosts fear birth. It perfectly captures the endless, terrifying loop of reincarnation that both the living and the dead are completely trapped in. Think about it. When people die, they become ghosts, right? So naturally, people fear death. But when ghosts are reincarnated, they get pulled right back into human form. So ghosts fear birth. It's just an endless cycle of anxiety. And the kicker? This loop is fundamentally fueled by our physical actions, what we consume, and the very real karmic seeds we're planting every single day. To unpack all of this, we're going to follow a clear path today. 1. The cycle of samsara. 2. Receiving the Tao. 3. Setting intentions. 4. Wisdom versus merit. And finally, 5. Secrets of the altar. Section 1. The cycle of samsara. The ultimate human dilemma. Originally, I did not wish to be born, but suddenly I was born on this world. Originally, I did not wish to die, but suddenly death comes visiting. This quote is from the great philosopher Zhuangzi, and it hits right at the core of the human condition, doesn't it? We really lack control over our own existence. We literally didn't ask to arrive, and we sure don't dictate when we have to leave. In these ancient teachings, these major life events are entirely out of our hands because they're driven by karmic debt. And listen, this debt isn't just some abstract floating concept. It's a very real, tangible weight that we accrue through our daily actions and our consumptions. That is exactly why purifying our physical input, like adopting a plant-based diet, becomes the only real way to genuinely break this cycle. So the hard truth is, without some kind of profound intervention, we are doomed to suffer endlessly in this vast sea known as samsara. We just cycle continuously through the 4 forms of birth and the 6 realms of existence, piling up karma, largely because of our own ignorance. We mistake illusions for reality, and we actively generate heavy karmic debt. In fact, taking the lives of other sentient beings just to sustain ourselves is viewed as one of the biggest drivers of negative karma out there. That act of consumption binds our souls super tightly to the lower realms of this wheel, forcing us to constantly reincarnate just to repay the lives we've taken. Finding a way out of this loop is the ultimate goal. Section 2. Receiving the Tao, the spiritual solution. Now visualize the lotus flower. It's such a brilliant metaphor. It grows deep down in the dark, murky mud, yet when it finally blooms above the water, it is completely spotless. It vividly represents the awakening of our true self, our innate Buddha nature, right in the middle of a chaotic, muddy material world. But to achieve that kind of pristine purity, both your mind and your physical body have to remain entirely untainted by the suffering of the world below. So, receiving the Tao isn't merely some symbolic ritual. It's a profound cosmic shift. The texts tell us that when you receive the Tao from a designated master, it awakens your innate wisdom. But here is the most astonishing part. It literally rewrites your spiritual destination. The teachings explain that your name is physically removed from the underworld registry. That means you are freed from the 10 courts of hell, and your name is officially recorded in the heavenly registry instead. It grants you absolute peace when facing death, securing your spirit's upward trajectory. No more endless loop. And we are incredibly fortunate, because right now we're living in what the sources call the White Era. This is a rare, final window of cosmic time where Maitreya Buddha is actively gathering spiritual cultivators. Back in the day, esoteric teachings were hidden deep in the mountains, secretly passed down to single isolated disciples. But today, it's an era of universal salvation. However, this massive, unprecedented opportunity also comes with immense urgency. The karmic weight of the world is heavier than it's ever been. That is exactly why everyday people need to adopt strict cultivation practices right now, before the window closes. Section 3. Setting spiritual intentions, the commitment to cultivation. The source text offers this fantastic story known as the parable of the 3 sons. Imagine an aging ruler who needs to test his 3 sons to see who is truly fit to take the throne. So he sends them up a huge mountain. The eldest son comes back in just 3 days, having only seen the fragrant, superficial flowers at the very foot of the mountain. The second son returns in a week, having seen some basic wildlife halfway up. But the youngest? He takes a full, exhausting month. He returns totally worn out, but having seen the vast earth, the fierce winds, and the glorious rising sun from the absolute summit. The point here is that true spiritual mastery requires the absolute perseverance to climb to the very top, totally undeterred by hardship or bodily cravings. There's a wonderful text that says, "A bird follows a flying swan to travel far. An ordinary person following a sage will naturally elevate their virtues." Basically, your spiritual destination is entirely defined by the ultimate goals you set and the specific examples you choose to emulate. If you just follow ordinary people and act on basic human cravings, well, you're going to get ordinary results. You stay trapped in samsara. But if you actively model your life after sages and Buddhas, you will elevate your virtues. And what exactly defines a Buddha? Universal, boundless compassion. To truly follow them means acting exactly as they do, which fundamentally requires us to abstain from harming or consuming animals. Section 4. Cultivating Wisdom and Merit, the Dual Path. Now, this is a really fascinating parable that cleanly contrasts the danger of prioritizing internal wisdom over external merit, or vice versa. On one side, we have the poor arhat. He meditated perfectly, but never helped a single soul. He actually achieved enlightenment, but in his final lifetime, he was a starving, impoverished beggar. On the flip side, we have a man who built temples and gave to charity constantly, but he never disciplined his mind or kept his precepts. He accumulated immense blessings, but completely lacked the internal discipline of mercy, like the discipline it takes to control cravings and stop eating meat. Because of that fatal flaw, he lost his human form entirely. He was reincarnated as the king's favorite elephant. So yes, he was covered in magnificent jewels, but he was still trapped in an animal body. And here we arrive at the absolute core of true cultivation. It's a dual path. The simultaneous daily labor of perfecting your own character while also rescuing others. And this right here is exactly why true, authentic cultivation fundamentally requires adopting a vegetarian diet. I mean, you simply cannot claim to be meditating for inner peace while actively participating in, or driving the demand for, the slaughter of sentient beings. The esoteric mechanics are crystal clear. Eating meat creates a direct, literal karmic debt, a life for a life. Every single piece of flesh consumed physically anchors your soul back to the heavy wheel of samsara. Cultivation is about transforming a selfish nature into universal compassion. A plant-based diet is that foundational bridge where internal discipline, controlling your earthly cravings, meets external mercy, sparing lives. If you're consuming violence, you're internalizing violence, completely blocking your path to true wisdom. Section 5. Secrets of the Altar. Decoding the Physical. You might not know this, but the physical layout of the temple altar is actually a highly specific, encoded map. The very highest level represents the absolute highest realm of nirvana. You'll often see the representation of a circle, the zero, symbolizing the ultimate void. That's the perfect stillness and quietude of yin. But out of that profound void emerges the one, the vertical creative cosmic force of yang that actively births the entire universe. So these huge abstract metaphysical realities are actually perfectly anchored right there in the physical geometry of the altar. At the absolute center of this upper altar sits the Lao Mu Deng, or the heavenly lamp. This burning flame is a massive symbol of the Eternal Mother. She represents the ultimate creator, the very source of all life and light in the entire cosmos. And think about it. Because she is the mother of every living being, harming her creations, the animals of this earth, directly violates the fundamental law of universal love. It totally contradicts the very essence of returning to this pure, radiant source, which is a powerful reminder of why our daily actions and our diets must reflect absolute compassion. And what about the Buddha and Bodhisattva statues placed around the altar? They aren't there merely to be worshipped as magical idols. They're actually representations of highly successful cultivators. They serve as tangible, physical blueprints for our own spiritual journey. They achieve their transcendent state through absolute, unwavering compassion, and by keeping strict spiritual precepts, most notably that vegetarian diet we've been talking about. Their presence proves that the journey from an ordinary, flawed human being to a divine, awakened spirit is absolutely possible, but it's only possible if we meticulously follow their path of wisdom and mercy. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, urgent thought regarding your own spiritual journey. The teachings are completely unambiguous. Time in this white yang era is incredibly precious, and the cycle of samsara is utterly unforgiving. So ask yourself, are you actively cultivating absolute compassion in your mind and on your dinner plate?
Or are you just waiting for the existential cycle to painfully repeat itself? Thank you so much for joining me to explore these incredible concepts today.